on this day of All Souls Day, it's important for us to understand the nature of what hope is. And St. Thomas Aquinas would talk about hope, and he would say hope is this supernatural virtue between two extremes, presumption and despair. Hope is in between those. And in our readings today, we have these beautiful words that speak to us both of the importance of not falling into presumption and not falling into despair. First, let's just look at the despair one. The Lord says to us, do not let your hearts be troubled. You have faith in God. In other words, you have faith in the Father's love for you. Have faith also in me. And that word faith, it doesn't just mean having something just in your mind, but it means leaning in, allowing Him to be your support. And He makes this promise saying, I'm going to prepare a place for you. I have a place already for you. In other words, the Lord is saying, I want you to be in heaven with me. It's not a begrudging thing. It's not sort of just for, a couple people or so, and well, maybe we'll let this person in, but the Lord's desperate desire, His deepest dream, is that every single one of His children find their room that has been made for them in heaven. And so the Lord is wanting us to get there, and He will use every single possible means to bring us there. That's the great gift of purgatory. A lot of times, and maybe this comes from maybe sometimes the way that we sort of thought of purgatory is almost like another hell, sort of like hell light. And sometimes it's sort of like, wow, like that's just really, it seems like it's like angry or something like that. And yet purgatory is one of the greatest ways of God loving us, saying, I love you even beyond the grave. I love you in such a way that if you don't have everything together just yet, I'm not going to give up on you. If you even have that little tiny crack in the door of your heart, that's all that I need to be able to go in and heal you. Even if your time runs out in this life, the Lord doesn't forsake us and says, I can still find a way to heal you after this life. That's a great gift. When we think of purgatory, we should think of it as a beautiful way of the Lord saying, I love you. I haven't forgotten about you. I'm a good shepherd. I'm going to lead you to those life-giving streams. He's not a begrudging shepherd that's looking for a way to ditch the sheep. Sometimes we think of that. It's sort of like, He's like, well, I have so much better things to do than to hang out with these guys. And so if I can find a way to, sneak away, I do it. And the Lord doesn't do that. He walks with us all the way. Even when we die, He still walks with us. And the beautiful thing, too, is He even says, you can walk with your friends as well. Sometimes we think, well, when someone dies, boom, there's nothing more. And maybe those holes in the heart in which maybe we weren't able to be as loving as we should have. Or maybe we didn't say that one last, I love you, and it weighs on us. Purgatory becomes the great gift of the Lord saying, even if you weren't able to give everything that you are really realizing that you should have in life, you can do it now. Because the souls of the faithful departed, they experience the blessing of our prayers. They feel those prayers. They feel the love, and even that maybe incompleteness that we had in life, they're feeling that sense of, we still walk with them. That's why praying for the souls in purgatory is one of the works of mercy. It's a way of saying, I love you, and it's as healing to them as is healing to us as well, because we don't just sort of stop. And it's kind of like, well, I guess I just have to wait till heaven. It's like, no, you can actually love your loved ones now. Every single prayer, every single rosary, every single offering of Mass, every single chaplet of divine mercy, you are, in a sense, putting your hand on their shoulder, saying, I'm still with you through this. And as you work through this grace of being healed from the inside out in purgatory, I'm actually with you as your friend. Not saying, well, I'll see you on the other side. I'm with you right now. How beautifully healing that can be. I encourage you to really think about that and really enter into this deep devotion to the souls in purgatory, because they need our prayers. And also it heals us. It heals that gap, to say the gap isn't really there. It's a lot more closer than we realize. So that's on the one side of don't despair. The Lord has this beautiful plan that he calls purgatory, that if he's not able to make us a saint here in this life, then he gives us that ability after. But then there's the other side. The other side is the danger of falling into presumption. And I remember my sister-in-law speaking to me about her grandfather, who was a third order Carmelite. And one of the things, he lived this holy, holy life. But one of the things he kept telling people is, he said, when I die, at my funeral, don't tell the people, hey, he's a saint right now, don't have to worry about it anymore, he's in heaven. He said, tell the people, pray. Don't just leave me in the lurch, but pray for me. Because, yeah, even if I'm living my life for God, maybe there's some things that still need to be healed. And I don't want everyone to just go away and have a party, and then I'm going to hear like, hey, pray for me. This is sometimes what happens within our modern sensibility, in which we kind of forget about purgatory, and sometimes we forget about it because we think that it's a scary thing, that we think that it's something that we don't want our loved ones to be in. And so we sort of turn a blind eye, and we just say, well, we don't really need to pray for them because they're in heaven. And sometimes we even say, well, they're an angel in heaven. And yet, angels and humans are totally different. And so it's important for us to remember this healthy understanding of the need for purgatory. Our loved ones need purgatory. If there is anything that they are not a canonized saint yet in this life, then they need that gift of purgatory. But don't see it as something to be afraid of. To say, well, if I acknowledge that they may need purgatory, then somehow I'm failing them because I'm saying that they're not as good a person as they should have been. And yet, that's not the way that the Lord looks at it. The Lord says, these are my loved ones. These are the souls of the just. These are the ones who are in right relationship with me. But as it says in that first reading, it says, chastised a little, they shall be greatly blessed, because God tried them and found them worthy of himself. Those words right there are about they will experience this healing, this trying, but it's a trying that makes them come even more alive. So the way to truly love our loved ones is not to say, well, we don't need to worry about them anymore. We don't want to worry about them in despair, because we also know that the Lord is just desperately wanting our loved ones to be with him in heaven, and wants our loved ones to experience everything that they were made for. He doesn't want to hold back anything of his love. So that's such a beautiful message that's there. And the souls in purgatory, they are simultaneously more joyful and more happy than anyone can possibly imagine in this life. And yet, they also suffer more than we can imagine in this life. And now, how can that be? It's a suffering of love. Sometimes we think of that suffering as a terrible torment of hell. It's sort of, again, like hell light, but it's totally different. The souls in purgatory, they put themselves in purgatory. It's not God kind of taking them and kind of throwing them in there, but it's The soul's saying, I'm not ready for this banquet. And it hurts when you are so close to the one that you love and you realize there's still something that needs healed. And yet they're so happy because they know without a doubt that they're going to that wedding banquet. They're like right outside. They can hear the music playing. They can smell the good food. They're ready, and yet they're not ready to come in yet. And if you've ever had that suffering of smelling something really, 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 really good, and yet you can't have it just yet, there's a suffering there. But notice how it's a suffering that's not full of despair. It's a suffering of deep love, of deep joy. And they say it is so worth it. The souls in purgatory, though they suffer in a way that we don't understand, such a deep suffering of healing everything, they are freely saying it is so worth it. Do you see how the simultaneous blending of the suffering in purgatory and our prayers help them in that suffering? So that's why we don't want to just turn and just say, well, good luck. That's what we do sometimes if we say, well, you're in heaven, I don't need to worry about praying for you. Then they're kind of on their own to deal with that. But when we say, I'm going to be with you in the midst of this, I love you through my prayers, then we also will experience the truth about their joy. That again, the souls in purgatory are more happy than we can imagine because they're so close to the wedding feast, and yet they suffer because they are so close. Suffering of love, not of despair. The fires of purgatory are actually the very fires of God's love, burning away anything that gets in the way. That's this being tried as gold in the furnace. He proved them. In the time of their visitation, they shall shine. They shall dart about as sparks through stubble. They shall judge nations and rule over peoples. What is the Lord saying there? He's saying that the beauty that you saw in your loved one when they were on this earth is going to be nothing compared to the beauty in which you're going to see them again. In their visitation, in other words, when they are totally purified, when they are totally shining as pure gold, shining with the radiance of the soul that was created to love God and be with Him forever. When we see that, when we meet them again as a saint, wow. The only thing you can imagine is when we have these sunsets, or these sunrises actually, and you just see the first little tiny bit of a sun ray that starts to come out. That is their life in this life. When the full sun is up, and it's so glorious, and it illuminates everything in the world, and you can't even look at it because it's so beautiful. That's heaven. That's going to be their smile looking at you. Isn't that beautiful? That's why we need to pray for the souls in purgatory. That's why we should not be afraid of the fact that they are suffering out of love to become radiant. And they want us to be with them on that journey. So today, make a commitment. Whenever you go to a funeral, whenever you hear someone passes away, don't immediately say, well, there's no purgatory, because only God knows that. Purgatory is the great gift, and we should make sure that we be a part of that gift for our loved ones. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May their souls and the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace.